Hello, working on a Hammer 7, and I figured I'd do a little video showing my process a bit because I haven't in the past and I have been asked how I do this. So what I have here is a Czech Mauser. So this is a little bit different than the Swedish Mausers I've used in the past, but it's pretty sturdy, good stock to use, and they're fairly cheap and accessible. At least this one was that I came across on eBay. So pretty much what you do is you take a Dremel. I use a multi-purpose bit, which you can see right here, that I've found works best for this. And you take that bit and just work away at it. So an example, this is the Hammer 7 lower, and as you can see, we're making progress. Eventually that will drop fully in, and then we can start working on make sure the upper is flush and the ASA is going through correctly. Some other things I've done that you can do to make it a little bit easier is I've removed most of the front end, keeping only what's essential. And same with the back. The more material you take off of this, the less wood you're gonna have to take off your stock. So it's not pretty, but it's not gonna be seen, and a lot of the structure you're removing will be added once you put it in the stock, because that will be protecting it now. But honestly, it's pretty sturdy as it is. Didn't really remove anything that is too important in keeping that screw there, and that's all that needs to be there for anyways. I even have one build where I just remove this entirely. I don't recommend doing that, but it still works. So. One more thing is I have a Swedish Mauser lower here, and I'm going to put that on this Czech Mauser. They are a little bit different in proportion, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of work to make that fit in correctly. But essentially, that will go in there, and there'll be held in by a screw right there. And then I'm going to cut it right where it's marked, hopefully a little bit more straight than it's marked. And that way you do not see this big hole here that will be covered up. Okay, so it's been a couple days and I've made a little bit of progress here. So we got the Hammer 7 fitted. Working on some of the detail work. Still have to get this cut out for magazine release. Still have to work out the trigger, but just starting to get everything in place as it should be. Get the right scissor barrel and just do some general cleaning up and make this look a little bit more professional. So yeah, I'll get back to you when I make more progress. Okay, so it's been a couple more days. Got a lot of the finishing work done now. So barrel's been aged, and the receiver has been repainted to match the aesthetic of the stock a little bit more. So it's almost done. Still have to sort out some kind of cocking mechanism there, and also we still haven't put in our trigger yet. I did some research and figured out that the actual Mauser trigger might work in this, so I'm going to try ordering one of those in and making that fit in there, and I'll give you more details on how that'll fit once I have the trigger in. But yeah, so just mainly what I've done recently is just paint and try to make everything look a little bit more professional. I won't be having that there when I'm done. Put in a straight ASA with a remote line adapter, and that's really the bulk of it right now. So I'll show you probably the finished product very shortly. Yep. Okay, well here is the finished product. So we got that trigger installed. We got all of the finishing cosmetic changes, and this is pretty much what it'll be from here on. So I'll strip it apart real quick and I'll go over each part as best I can. Okay, so this is it, pretty much completely stripped down. I'll do the rest as I'm recording so you get to see a little bit of the process, and maybe I'll assemble it on camera. Just the way I'm set up, it's not ideal for doing this kind of disassembling, reassembly. I wish I had a better setup for that. But here we'll take a closer look. So you got your main receiver here. We'll look at that trigger first. So all you got to do to take it off at this point is recess the mag release, and then you can pull it out. And it's hard to do with one hand. There you go. Okay. So as stated before, it's not pretty, but it won't be seen, and it will do the job and pretty well, I must say. So what we have going on here is this is actually an original Mauser trigger, modified in a couple ways. I really should disassemble it further, but it's kind of hard to take it apart, so I'm just going to have to show you from here. So pretty much what we had to do is remove some extra parts off the sides of the Mauser trigger. And that's pretty much all you have to do. I had to find a drill press to do that correctly. If I didn't have one, it would have caused some issues with alignment. So you really want to have a perfect straight through kind of drill job. You don't want to have it at an angle or it could cause issues for you. And speaking of that, I actually did not have a drill press to go through this trigger, and I actually missed it, and I ended up just making it a notch further down. That hole was here and I messed up, so I just made a notch here, and does the job for what I'm using right now, which is just some nylon string. Probably will switch to wire later on because it tends to stretch and stop working. I added a straight ASA to the back. That's optional, really. There's other ways that you can make that work. There's angled 45-degree, I believe, adapters that you can stick on the original angled ASA, and that way you can actually hook up air. It'll be out of the way. You're gonna have to offset it to one side, but it does the job nonetheless. Okay, so moving along. So here is the rifle stock once again. You can see just how much material I had to remove. I, in the past, used Swedish Mausers, and they tend to have a little bit larger recesses on the inside. You don't have to remove quite as much material. So this was a little bit more challenging, but I kind of like the end results a lot, so I'm not really complaining. So that's what I did in there. Flip to the other side. This is that Swedish Mauser trigger guard I was talking about. So didn't really fit perfectly because this is a Czech Mauser body. So you can see that there. I actually had to remove the magazine wall. I wanted to use half of it, but didn't work. So that is a Coca-Cola can that I reshaped as kind of a cover to hide the inner workings of the marker, because otherwise there'd be a big hole there. And here's the other side of that Swedish Mauser, lower assembly. It was the trigger guard magazine wall, and that would have been for the magazine wall. So I just hacked that off and put it on there, made it look more finished. There was a gap right here. I used some epoxy and sawdust to kind of hide that gap so it's a little bit less noticeable. Okay, moving down. Now here's a strap. This helps hold the whole thing together. This will go on the handguard and prevent it from moving, and it'll also keep the marker inside of the stock. I do a little bit of leather work, so I kind of just made this myself, but there's
plenty of other areas where you can find these, or, you know, it really doesn't take up a whole lot of knowledge on leatherwork to make something like this. So going to here's the handguard. So we have an actual check Mauser front sight on here. So what we had to do on the other side is remove some material, because this would have been a tube that would fit through the actual barrel, but because our paintball barrel is much bigger, it doesn't work. So we hacked that off, made it fit. This actually didn't require a whole lot of modification to fit around a paintball barrel, this actual handguard itself. Just a little bit of removal here, and that was about it. So that's that. And lastly, here's your end piece. So what I did here is I actually took this bayonet lug and I dremeled a ton of material off the top of it, so it'll actually still work with a paintball barrel. That was a lot of work. You don't have to do that at all if you're doing this same modification. It honestly took so much time, and the only reason I did it is because I thought it would be cool to stick a silicone copy of a Kar 98 bayonet on here, which does work very nicely, but totally not necessary. Just looks nice, and you can do that with it, which is kind of cool. And stuck through there is a Kar 98 barrel swab, like a barrel cleaner. And let's see, sorry, can't really tell, but oh yeah, you can see it's cut right there, right here. Just would not quite fit into this stock. It's not really made for this stock, but that is the one that I was able to find, so that's what I used. Also, here's the top piece that would fit through this lug and kind of secure it. So what I had to do here is this would have been the top half of this piece, and it would have been contoured to fit a much smaller barrel. So hacked that off, flipped it upside down, and now it actually fits very nicely over a paintball barrel. And on top of that, I just stuck, I think this is off a Flatline A5 barrel, this iron sight here, and kind of took that off and just clamped it onto this metal part. So not the most reliable front sight, but it doesn't fall off, and it really does match the aesthetic of what a check Mauser front sight would have looked like. So yeah, that's everything here. So I'll reassemble it now, try to capture that as best I can, but can't really guarantee that you'll be able to see everything. Oh, just so you're wondering, I didn't go over this before, but this bolt here, that actually was purchased. That's purpose made for Hammer 7s. If I can remember who produces them, I'll leave him in the description, a link to his site. But those work very well, and same with this straight ASA.
Okay, so that is it.
See, all back assembled again. There's how that bottom half looks assembled. And yeah,
That's really all there is. I wish I could do a better job actually recording the assembly and disassembly, but I can't really do that right now, so this will have to do. But still think you can get a good idea of how it was put together. And yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll try to leave those links for some of the items I used. And that's about it.